think a lot of students have just gotten another sense of how to belong and how to create relationships outside of what were the traditional avenues.
And a lot of my students talk about how they feel safe in the esports program, and that's their family, that's their community. And I think that esports gives kids a future that they might otherwise not have.
Man, I wish that had been available when I was in high school.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Rhode Island Interscholastic League 2019 Fall Championships, now for League of Legends, where we're going to see Bishop Hendricken facing off against Tiverton High. I am your play-by-play audio. Joining me is Kios on the desk. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. Great Rocket League series we saw beforehand, and I think we have some returning players, don't we?
We do. All three players from Hendricken who just won the championships for Rocket League are also on the League of Legends teams that also happens to be in the finals. So these are some incredible players, not just in their respective games, just overall. The amount of dedication that it can take to be competitive, this competitive, and not one, but two esports is pretty incredible.
Yeah, and you talk about back-to-back champions. Usually you're talking about a season, not just two championships in a day. Yeah, that's even more impressive if they come back and win this one. So definitely rooting for those guys to see if they can take two in one day.
Tiverton, though, they're going to be looking to knock Hendricken down a peg, looking to fight back and try to take them down. We'll have an interesting matchup for sure. We want to talk a little bit about, though, of course, for those of you that may be a little bit new to the esports scene, what League of Legends is at its core.
So we've talked about this a couple days before in our first broadcast, but to recap, we got a 5v5 MOBA. Basically means we're going to be on a single map, and we're going to run around it and fight each other as a 5v5 team, although sometimes you'll be on one side of the map and your team will be on the other, so it could be a 3-on-2 or 3-3 fight. It depends on sort of how the situation plays out here, but there's going to be a lot of obstacles to go around here. Some neutral objectives which either team can take to make themselves sort of more powerful, deal more damage, and there's also those turrets that get in the way from you actually ending the game and hitting the Nexus.
Yeah, a lot of little nuances in League of Legends. It's a very deep, very complicated game. It requires an immense understanding of it. And one of the biggest things that we'll be talking about is the actual draft, the compositions. Going into the game, there's over 140 champions that each player can choose from and pick one champion to take into the game, and we'll go through what we call a draft phase before the actual game gets started, where both teams will get to both pick their champions and ban some away, so it'll be interesting to see what they prioritize.
Yeah, we've had a couple common champions in the past couple days, but there's also been a lot of switch-ups. We've seen Volleybear a couple times, well, just once actually got banned away in the second game here, so there's also a lot of unique picks here, especially at this level of play. Some people have put more time into champions they care about because they just like that character, and it's like, oh, well, you can surprise someone, so it has that little bit of hidden value, even though it's not typically regarded as a strong character.
Yeah, LEC kicking off today. We got to see some European players playing League of Legends earlier, and a lot of pressure going on the jungle. So where we've seen in different regions strength on different champions, we've seen bottom lane be very important with things like Misfortune, Aphelios, a lot of really engaged, focused supports. And then as well, we've seen junglers become incredibly important as well, especially early game ganking ones. The jungle, with the recent changes, has been made a little bit less important about farming. But you can see there the Hendricken Hextech Hawks are going to be meeting the Tiverton Outlaws here in the finals. The Hawks win against the Iron Promos and John 1135. The Outlaws took down the Happy Windmen and Pulsefire Purple to get here.
Yeah, a long bracket to go through, but they've earned their way here, and both these teams great. And I think we'll have another great match. We've had a few lopsided games in the past couple days here. Usually that happens in games one. I think it just kind of nerves. Game one is a little bit of a high-pressure situation, and then usually by game two they kind of settle down and things sort of get a little bit more even.
Yeah, so we'll see if that happens this time around. Teams love to feel each other out in that first game, kind of get a gauge of how strong their opponents actually are, because this is their first time meeting them. They were on opposite sides of the bracket, so perhaps these are just the best two teams in this. I mean, they made it to the finals, they must be, and they haven't gone against competition as stiff as this up to this point. But I also want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors for putting this all together. PlayVS, they've been doing incredible work all over the country setting up esports leagues for these high schools. These aren't just small tournaments. These are full-fledged sport leagues, rivaling that of basketball, baseball, football, where these players can go in, they can make a team, they play over a season, they have coaching staff, they have practices, reviews. I mean, this is just a really incredible opportunity very young to the scene. I mean, it's only been a few years since I've been in high school, but I wish this could have been a thing back then. I would have jumped all over it. So the fact that PlayVS has allowed these players to really pursue their passion on a stage where they can get some exposure is an incredible thing.
Yeah, it certainly is, and coming together, organize a team, it's a challenging prospect, but it builds so many skills for later on, and it's one of the most valuable experiences I've ever had when I was younger here, because it was just so amazing to learn and grow in the specific sport you're playing, but also together as a team and a group. It's really helpful just going forward in pretty much everything you do.
Yeah, and you know, there's lots of high school kids that aren't really interested in basketball or baseball or those traditional sports. This allows them another niche to kind of pursue that competitive nature. We do have a little bit of correction. It actually is a swap up for the players in Hendricken. They do not have the exact same players as they did for the Rocket League team.
Yeah, so we're going to see a little bit of a different roster here. We're going to have Lin Yu Li here in the jungle. We're going to have Zhu Jiachen in the top lane. In mid, Walter Yang, and sport Nick Zhu, and in the 80 carry position, Young Feng. So a little bit of a different swap up of the rosters there last minute, but I'm excited to see these guys get on the Rift here, and we'll see if maybe they have a little bit of different strategy, draft strategy coming into this one because of that.
And at the end of the day, even though these aren't the exact same players, which I think would be pretty insane, but this still really speaks to Bishop Hendricken as just an esports school and the program that they've set up. The fact that they've gotten 2 separate teams to the championships in their respective games, you've got to give credit to their coaching staff and the people behind the scenes and the players for really just having a dedicated atmosphere where they want to improve.
Yeah, and sometimes having multiple games that you can support and having multiple players there is amazing, not just because, like, hey, you might have knowledge of another esport, but also just having that experience of going in and playing in an environment which you haven't played in before, and just having that experience from someone else who's been there before is so valuable, because it gives that little bit extra edge, a little bit extra comfort that you otherwise wouldn't have going into an environment like that, which can be a little intimidating, especially when you're in high school and you've never experienced something like this before.
Absolutely. I mean, these kids are part of something revolutionary. Esports is sweeping the nation. They're really pioneering the industry right now in the high schools. But I want to talk a little bit more about the actual game. We should be getting a draft pretty soon here, but what can we expect out of these teams? I mean, we have something that's called a meta in League of Legends, which basically is the currently decided or agreed upon optimal way to play the game. The game does change every couple of weeks. The developer will make small tweaks, making this stronger, making this a little bit weaker. So right now, what do you expect these teams to come out with?
So as you talked about earlier, in the professional scene, we see a lot of misfortune in the bot lane. Of Felios is there as well, although he's been banned a few times recently. Zaya has made an appearance, and then also the engaged supports like you've talked about. Braum has been a big one for defensive purposes, but then Leona offensively, Nautilus has been there as well, so there's a lot of different options down there, but bot lane very important. And then the junglers sort of go hand in hand with those supports. The Olaf, the Rek'Sai, which we haven't seen the Rek'Sai yet, but the Olaf has made an appearance, so I think those will be big as well. And I think that's just huge, getting engaged early on, because what's been so crucial for pretty much every series we've seen so far has been the engage, the start to the fight, and being able to take it to them, because the split push strats haven't worked out quite as well. There have been a few instances where we had a Fiora that did quite well, but that was sort of a snowball out of the early game. So I think that just drafting for a 5v5 could be very pivotal, and getting that key engage early on, as well as that snowball early on with perhaps a jungler that can invade is very important.
And it makes it so much easier as well when you're drafting that team fight competition to fight around those objectives, which have become so crucial in this current meta. The Dragons, the Souls coming online now in Season 10, Rise of the Elements, set a really clear win condition into the game, and especially when you're looking later into the game at the Elder Dragon and the amazing buff that provides, grabbing these team fighting compositions that can really contest these later dragons is so important.
Yeah, the Dragon Soul, very important, and as you've talked about a little bit, we've had very much a priority on individual dragons, while stacking them up can be really pivotal. We saw the Yasuo Malphite competition that we had yesterday was amazing at the end of the game, because they had their ultimates up basically instantly. As soon as they used them, it was like, oh wait, we're doing that again? All right, well, I guess we're going again.
Multiple times a fight.
Exactly. That was the thing that was basically won in the game in the end, because they had that ultimate up for the last couple of fights twice in a row, and it was just so pivotal, because if they didn't have that, maybe that fight goes a little bit south, because of the amazing engage the Kayn had. So having those individual dragons, they all give different stats, but having those dragons can be so pivotal, as well as picking that soul and then eventually Elder, though we haven't gotten there every single game.
Yeah, unfortunately, the games have been very fast-paced, which is fun to watch. Of course, we love an entertaining game, but I would like to see an Elder Dragon just blasting people left and right. It'd be a sight to behold, for sure. When we're talking about those dragons, though, some of them a little bit more effective than others when we're talking about the individual drakes. So that Yasuo Malphite combination that we saw yesterday, they were fortunate enough to have 4 Cloud Drakes on their side, which Cloud Drake giving 10% CDR now. I think the most successful change of the Dragons when you compare it to the strength of the Cloud Drake in Season 9, which I thought was not too great. A lot of people just kind of ignored the Cloud Dragon straight up. But when you're looking at things like the Infernal Dragon, as a singular Drake giving just a small percentage of AD and AP, even late game, you're talking maybe maximum like 20 AP, 30 AD. If you're really on a champion that's stacking. Now, of course, you brought up the Jins, the Vigars, the infinitely stacking champions, so that can be much better. But things like the Cloud Drakes and the Ocean Drakes giving those flat health regen, flat ultimate CDR cooldown, I think are much more effective as just singular Drakes.
Certainly, and that's sort of important to play around. Understanding what the Drake's going to be. Should we get it now? Should we just kind of leave it up for later? It's a complicated decision. Also revolves around how the map is at that point. Can you get it, or should we just leave it here because taking it is a risk? Or there's just a lot of going into that. But the Dragons are very important to play around, and they're eventually going to have to be taken at some point because leaving those objectives on the map, leaving that up for the enemy team is just, you can't really do that because if they get too many, then all of a sudden you're at a huge disadvantage. So you got to play around it but not commit to it too hard, which at one point we saw where there was a big commitment around that Dragon, and that kind of threw the game for one side where it was just like, all right, we committed, we lost that fight, and all of a sudden we can't really fight back anymore. So you got to be very, very careful of not overextending, but you also have to make sure you try and get as many of those Dragons as you can early on.
100%. On the opposite side of that coin, when we're talking about the Dragons, comes the Jungler. Very crucial role here in Season 10. And we've seen a big shift in the jungle meta, where last season, it was kind of, you'd make it a full clear, then you'd look for ganks, and then you'd return to your full clear. This season, with the increased respawn rate of the actual camps themselves and the increase in experience on things like the Gromp, we've seen a lot of junglers move to a different path of kind of neglecting one half of the map and just grabbing these 3 camps and then ganking.
Yeah, it definitely depends on the champion you're playing, because some farm a little bit faster than others. So like something like an Olaf can farm pretty quickly, so he can get it through his jungle much faster than others. But most champions don't have that luxury. They can't really clear their jungle fast enough to really keep up with the respawn rate. So they have been sort of going for just the one side, or just the one side in the buff, so that the way they can pressure one side of the map. But that does mean that, hey, well, if you're not pressuring one side of the map, that top lane or that bot lane goes unhindered. That can be big. So you got to sort of play around that, and the side matters a lot as well.
All right, well, we're going to get into the draft phase here for these two teams. Bishop Hendricken versus Tiverton High. It is going to be Tiverton on blue side, Bishop Hendricken on the red side. It means Tiverton will have the first pick, but the counter pick is going to go to Hendricken. 3 bans, though, first for each team. The first one going to be that Gangplank.
Gangplank, a very powerful scaling champion here. As we've talked about, the pace of the game has been pretty quick recently, but if you can get that GP to that Triforce, that second item as well, he can wave clear, stall out the game a little bit alongside maybe another mage in the mid lane or something, and really become an incredible nuisance, especially if he's left alone in that top side. So I think like taking that one away, because he can be so safe in the lane, hard to exploit.
Another top lane ban coming through with the Kled. Hendricken going to be taking that one away from Tiverton, followed by the Caitlyn. I think what we see here is more of a focus on actual pocket picks. And when you're going into this ban phase and you're approaching your strategy, really 2 strategies come to mind. You can either ban what's meta or just widely acceptedly strong in the current game, or you can ban, research your opponents, see what they specifically are very good at, because sometimes people will main a specific champion, just get very good at that one champion, and try to ban those away instead.
Yeah, so the Gragas Rumble to round out here. Again, probably a bit more of a pocket pick sort of mindset in this draft specifically here. Obviously, there are some strong champions in the meta generally, but for the most part, Zach and Gragas are kind of on the fringes of it, so makes sense to ban those away.
There's the meta pick, though. Misfortune, the first lock-in for Tiverton. We haven't seen a lot of priority on MF so far. Here in Play Versus, a lot of those pocket picks coming out, but such a strong AD carry with the ultimate can completely turn around team fights, as well as tons of lane priority to help get the lead and transition into those dragons, answered back by the Jarvan and the Braum.
Yeah, this is one of the best kind of counter picks to the Misfortune here is the Braum. He just soaks up her ultimate, can
Throws up
interrupt
that
it as
unbreakable.
well. And then Jarvan also going to threaten the backline. And Misfortune kind of wants to sit in one spot in the fight so that she can channel that full bullet time here. So I think that Jarvan Braum to counter the Misfortune here is a great idea. And then pairing the Braum with the Ophelia is so powerful if you get to the right weapon.
Absolutely. If you can get that Severum, the pistol, just continually, that really quick attack speed stacks the Braum concussive blows almost instantly. Great pickup for them. Going to grab into the last rotation. Tiverton High is going to round out their first round of picks with Oriana and Rek'Sai. So you've got the early game jungler. You've got a late game team fighting mid laner. They are going to start to get pinched here in the support pool, though.
Well, Tiverton has drafted incredible combos together. If you're able to get that Shockwave into bullet time, basically one fight there if you get like 3 or 4 members. So
yeah,
both sides have incredibly powerful compositions that can pair well with each other really, really well so far. But it's going to come down to team fight execution and understanding like where you're going to position. Does that bullet time get interrupted? What happens here? So it's going to be a complicated late game fight for both of these sides here that both have such powerful compositions that the fight can be decided within 2-3 seconds.
Hendricken are going to lock in that Vladimir in their first round of the second phase. Banning away a couple of those supports. The Shen, I actually think that was probably a ban towards Spiffy Koala because they're really trying to target those champions that have that lockdown that Misfortune can really just, get that bullet time unbridled there. Picking up the Karma and the Alistar, though, we are most likely going to see a top lane Karma from Tiverton.
Yeah, it should be the Alistar down bot lane. Another big combo with the Misfortune if you can get it together here. And a great ball carrier, should we say, for the Oriana there. Oriana, she wants to put her ball onto someone so that they can take it into the enemy team and get that big shockwave off. So a great combo is the Alistar Oriana if you're able to get it connected. So I think I really like where Tiverton have gone here. And as a supportive top lane are not bad considering they do have not an incredibly tanky lineup, but enough so that they can sort of just use the shield as a way to buffer here and just remain with the combo. So I think that Tiverton has drafted incredibly well. Bishop Hendricken, I think they have a very strong team fight as well, but now with this Renekton they've added on at the last minute here, I think they have an ability to potentially exploit the top lane Karma and maybe sort of snowball there and create pressure in the side lanes. They still have an incredible team fight, but if this Renekton gets out of control, that's going to be a real thorn in the side of Tiverton.
And I like that you bring that up because I think the Hendricken have drafted a much more dynamic composition where they have multiple options of where they want to go to attack. If you look down the line for Tiverton, you've got a crazy team fight composition set up with the Oriana and this Misfortune. But when you are looking at pre-25, 30 minutes where that Oriana is not too strong, if you want to make plays around the map, it has to be focused around the Misfortune. She's your main source of damage. Your entire composition with all the shields and the protection is focused around keeping her alive and setting up her for that perfect team fight. Over on Hendricken, though, they have the Vladimir in the mid lane, the Renekton in the top lane, the Aphelios in the bottom lane. All 3 of those lanes you could potentially exploit, potentially get them ahead and make them your win conditions. So much more well-rounded team composition compared to Tiverton's very narrow, very specialized fight.
Yeah, sometimes having that simplicity in game 1 is helpful to just be like, all right, this is the one thing we're doing and we're going to do it. And now there's no doubt about what the plan is. Bishop Hendricken, though, have a bit more options. So if something goes wrong, if the sort of the status of the game changes, they do have a way to sort of pivot to something else and make that work. But I think that Tiverton may, come out on top because of the simplicity. Who knows, though? Bishop Hendricken have drafted so many strong champions, and if just one of them gets ahead, they can potentially just destroy the enemy team here. Like Aphelios and Vladimir both can just melt backlines by themselves alone.
And when I'm looking at the win condition for Tiverton, which is the Wombo combo, Oriana ult into Misfortune ult, I'm honestly not seeing it really getting pulled off that effectively because when you're looking at Braum shield, obviously is going to be the biggest counter to shut that down. Even if you can get a massive shockwave, if Kilinru is able to get that unbreakable up while that shockwave goes off, he can still negate all the damage from Misfortune. Vladimir can obviously just drop into the pool, negate the damage whatsoever. Jarvan has tools to escape of that shockwave, interrupt the Misfortune ult. They just have so many tools available to directly counter what Tiverton has drafted. I think it's going to be very easy for them to execute the team fights compared to Tiverton.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Definitely a concern there. The one thing I think that Tiverton might have an edge over right now is that jungle matchup. The Rek'Sai, if he gets out of control early game, like the Renekton can sometimes, that Rek'Sai can just make life incredibly difficult for the Jarvan and just blow open this whole game.
Well, let's join these two teams on the Rift. It is going to be game 1 of the championship. Hendricken versus Tiverton High. The PlayVS 2019 Fall League of Legends champions for the Rhode Island Interscholastic League. And we see the new champion on the Rift, Aphelios. Set, I believe, was available. We haven't seen him played yet.
Yeah, haven't seen him play just yet. May not get to see him. We'll see if we get him in the next couple games in the series. That'd be awesome to see. But right now, he is so new that some people haven't had the time to really sort of learn him, and that could be obviously a big disadvantage if you're just not like comfortable with the champion yet. Aphelios been out a little bit longer and can certainly be played now because people have had the time to sort of like figure out what is going on in this kid. Even though it's so complicated, they can kind of figure out what's going on, how to play him most optimally, and he's so strong that even if you play him a little bit suboptimally, he can still dish out a ton of damage.
Yes, Aphelios is really that jack of all trades. He has tools for every single occasion, and it does feel a little bit like maybe he's a little overtuned. He's just too good in too many situations. He doesn't really feel that offhand the detriment of not being specialized. You know, that's kind of the trade-off. You're good at everything, but you're not great at anything.
Yeah, the one thing that is a big weakness for him is the mobility that he has, especially in the way League of Legends is now. The game is just a lot more mobile. There's just a lot more dashes, a lot more ways to get around the map quickly, as well as just around the team fight quickly. So him being immobile is a little bit of a concern, and considering there's a Rek'Sai in the game, the power of the shockwave, the bolt time, he can maybe get caught in something and go down very quickly, but if he doesn't get caught, then he's just unstoppable.
That is. We've seen so many Reddit highlight plays from Aphelios, especially with the Infernum Moonlight Vigil, able to just blow up teams. But right now, it is going to be a fairly even lane. It is going to be Hendricken with the early level 2, looking to stun up Spiffy Koala. There's the Severum swapped over to that Alistar falling very low. SW doing what he can to trade back some damage, but great trade by the Hendricken bot lane.
Yeah, slight mismanagement there. If you're Alistar level 1, you can't really walk up, unfortunately. And they gave over the level 2, and they didn't back off quickly enough, so unfortunately, Misfortune Alistar take a lot of damage there on that first trade.
And it's interesting because we think of Alistar as one of the weakest champions level 1. Aphelios also in the running for that title because level 1, he doesn't have an ability. He can swap guns, but he can't actually use an ability for either of those, so we have very weak level 1s on both sides. That means that level 2 was so important, and it was able to come out on top here for Hendricken. Right now, Rhode come up to the top side. It is jungle top versus jungle top, and it is Rek'Sai who has bursted down and taken down Spiritual Idealism, taking credit for that first takedown.
And that's really quite unfortunate there for the top laner of Tiverton. He didn't really do anything wrong there. They wanted to make a Rek'Sai gank happen up top lane, but now double buffs over to a Renekton and already 1-0. That's really quite bad. And that matchup, which is already going to be a little tough for the Karma there, is even tougher now that the Renekton is up 1-0. Has TP, so he can still go back by, come back to lane really, really quickly and keep up that pressure.
Great credit there over to Rhode, knowing that Rek'Sai was trying to path in behind the Renekton, being in the right place at the right time to shut him down.
Yeah, very, very nice counter gank there. It's kind of an obvious pathing, right? 3 camp spots, or three camps somewhere, usually double buff and then top side. That's the most likely path for a Rek'Sai early on. But sometimes you need to just respect that obvious play, right? And just he did it there, made sure he was top side. All of a sudden the Rek'Sai shut down now, and that early game pressure we talked about, the Rek'Sai that could potentially change the game in favor of Tiverton is just completely gone now. Nothing they can do with the Rek'Sai now in a 1v1 sense. Maybe he can still get a gank off, but it's definitely going to be much harder.
I think the Karma will still be fine, though. She's able to go back to base, get a cloth armor. Karma, a very defensive champion, so even though he is falling behind to that Renekton early on, has enough initial defensive tools and can optimize into that armor early enough that should still be okay.
Yeah, especially with the grass she's picked up. Probably going to be fine. However, she's going to have to give up more pressure in the lane than she really wanted to here, so not the end of the world, especially being a ranged champion, but hey, it's still not great.
Oh, but here's the gank here in the mid lane. Rhode flashing onto Shoddy Guns. Actually didn't even need it. Flashes away, but the Ignite is going to burn down. Chrono will find the takedown for that one, finding revenge for that top lane.
Yeah,
play.
unfortunate extra flash by the Orianna, but it still works out okay here. And then both ganks countered by these two junglers early on here. Maybe you should stop going for ganks because they haven't worked out so good.
And that's a horrible thing to do, but Chrono now is in trouble. He got sniffed out, was trying to be sneaky. Ferryman will have none of that.
What a wonderful play over the wall. Brilliantly done there by the Vladimir. I mean, Ferryman, that is knowing your damage numbers. He clearly has played Vladimir a lot and knows how his champion works and how powerful it can be, especially if you get that empowered Q. That's so much damage even early on, especially with that Rek'Sai being low.
Yeah, and if you get too close to that Rek'Sai, he knocks you up. Orianna can come over, and you might get taken down yourself. So very beautiful there by Ferryman, knowing exactly what he can do. And off to an early lead are Hendricken, looking to grab their second championship of the day. Is now 1,000 gold up just 6 minutes into the game. Still, though, when we have looked at game ones that we have seen this week, this is one of the more tame ones.
Yeah, certainly not the craziest early game we've had, because we've had some pretty explosive ones, but there's still been a lot of action here, and the junglers seem still hungry for some ganks in pretty much all the lanes. We've seen action everywhere here.
Yeah.
The bot lane, just no takedowns yet, but we still have seen attempts at the ganks and a lot of fighting. So I'm expecting to be, a continued pace set with a lot of engagement throughout.
Here come in. They step up a little bit further. Here comes the flag and the drag. Sentry going down for the Aphelios. And the Rek'Sai has joined, but the teleport is coming through before it's even completed. Cool finds a takedown. Misfortune going to be stunned up. That's another one. And 3 quick takedowns. None given over. Hendricken are exploding this game.
Well, and that's a result as well from the play top set earlier on. TP advantage further enacted, no way for the Karma to join, and she's not able to interrupt it. So that just means, all right, we have more people bot lane, probably going to win the fight, and they were doing such a good job before as well. The turret was put down there by the Aphelios. Cool just kited back. All of a sudden, they can't get onto him. The Alistair didn't even get off the trample stun. Now there's really nothing they can do. Ton of damage just out by the AD carry, and the TP comes in Renekton, helps clean up, and now the Dragon as well as that play bot side. Really big swing in the game for Hendricken.
And that one hurts the most for Tiverton. You take a loss topside, you take a loss in the mid lane, but your composition is drafted around this Misfortune. If she is not at an advantage, you're going to struggle when it comes to these mid-game team fights. So the fact that they were able to put this Misfortune behind as well, Hendricken really spreading the pressure all over the map.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world if she can maintain a CS parity, but if she does start to fall behind in the CS as well, and that lead continues to grow, that's definitely a big concern here, because if she falls behind in terms of item timings by too much, then you can't even really go on like 1 or 2 items, because then the Aphelios is just like even on 3, all of a sudden it's like, all right, well, we just can't even win a fight even if things go ideally. So definitely a big concern here. Hopefully the Alistair and Misfortune can hold on in lane right now. The CS is even, but the wave is pushing into Hendricken.
And no summoners on SW right now, so potential regank coming in from Kylan. He is on the bottom side of the map. Just hit level 6 Cataclysm available. We'll see what he looks to do. There isn't a lot of vision down. SW is going to drop some and clear out that control ward. Meanwhile, Chrono on the top side of the map. Rift Herald is live. Could look to take that one.
Definitely would be a good move over there, but the Rek'Sai is up here, the Jarvan's bot side, so I don't think they'll be playing the Rek'Sai.
Jump in, the Glacial Fissure going to buy some space. Jarvan going to put the Cataclysm down into the flashless 80 carry. Shouldn't be long for the Rift. Cool now on a takedown spree, as Kylan is going to grab credit for the takedown on MF. Now teleport into the top half of the map is Ferryman looking to turn around this 1v2. Even the odds. Karma going to try to find some healing with the W. Spiritual Idealism just barely not able to find that takedown as the Karma flashes over the wall. Spiritual chasing down Chrono, still level 5. The Spiritual's level 8. A good heal from the empowered Q. And it looks like the rest of the Tiverton squad will make it out. Meanwhile, Hendricken wailing away in this bot lane turret.
Great TP by Ferryman, but when you lose 2v3, that's a concerning sign here for Tiverton. They're clearly very far behind, and they've tried to make a play topside where they thought there was going to be an opening because Hendricken had committed a little bit more towards the bottom side with that gank, but brilliantly done by Ferryman to be aware, TP in, and then a massive play by Spiritual Idealism here. Literally just goes massive and comes up with a couple more takedowns for himself here. Top lane even worse off. Another double buff for the Renekton.
And this is so critical now for Tiverton. I mean, you're losing in every single lane. 5,000 gold lead just 10 minutes into the game is insane. We look at that stat 15 or 20 minutes into the game. We say, yeah, that team's doing incredibly well. They're probably going to win this game. At just 10 minutes, that's ludicrous.
Yeah, definitely concerning sign. The real big issue is that they did want to fight. There isn't really a backup plan for them. We talked about how their game plan is pretty simple of just like, all right, we're going to go in, we're going to get our items, fight, and then we're going to try and come out on top with good execution in our team fight. They can't really do that anymore unless they find a very specific item timing of like, oh, we just completed 1 or 2 items, now we can fight, because the fight's actually relatively even because they haven't spent their gold. That's even harder now because the lead continues to grow. So Hendricken have kind of all the options right now. We talked about how they have more options as a team comp in general, and they're the ones ahead here, so they can kind of do whatever they want. If they want to just fight, they can fight. If they want to play the map a bit more, they can do that as well. I mean, they hold all the cards at this point.
And not a lot of options here on the map either for Tiverton. They don't have the vision to really try to make a gank for themselves. There's no objectives up on the map for them to fight around and use those powerful team fighting ultimates. Right now, they want to try to make a play on the bottom side, but knowing that both players have their flash available, that's just mad respect from Cool and Blacktree to know that their jungler is not with them and back off.
Yeah. The big thing right now is the bottom lane especially, because mid lane, CS pretty even. Sure, there's a couple extra. Oh,
hang on though, a flag and drag plus flash combo is going to lock in the Karma and allow Kylan Rue to find another takedown for himself. Chrono tries to get something done in the mid lane, but none of these players are stepping up.
Yeah, so this is very clearly expecting the top side that it would go poorly after the first thing. Okay, bullet time's not going to hit anything, I guess.
That one going wide. The field goal is good right between the up posts.
Yeah, at least if you could get 3 points, maybe just like give like 3 gold to him or something. That'd be nice, just for the mental right now to reset here. But unfortunately, doesn't get really anything off that ultimate. And as you said, the bot lane really a big problem because the items are so different right now that even though he's close in CS, but he's not really even. And the item discrepancy is just so large that there's just no way they can win an engagement there. And especially when you miss bullet times like that, there's just really not much you can do here. And now the massive damage from the Aphelios coming through as well.
Graviton able to lock down SW, that extra burst of damage. Now Ocean Drake onto the map. Kylan Rue is going to come down here to the bottom side. Cool and Blacktree are finally going to step up and clear out that vision now that they know they have the back for their jungler. You do see shotguns coming. A great Moonlight Vigil is going to lock down SW and take him down on a rampage is Cool. Oriana was on the way, but she was not able to get there in time, and now Kylan should be able to take down this dragon. 3 members here, though. Can Chrono find the steal? Level 7 to level 8, gets blown up, is able to steal the Drake. That is the best he could have done. Good job that Tiverton able to find something back for themselves. Now, can they get out?
Their chase is on, though. Yeah, they might not be able to get away.
Slow on the Blacktree. He does not have the Glacial Fisher available, and so the rest of Tiverton will walk away. 1 takedown for 1 dragon. When you're this far behind, you will take that.
Definitely worth in the end, because the rest of the team got away there. Brilliantly played. The Alistar, so crucial in this game. Keeping away that Braum was really big there. The Dragon, huge steal there. It was actually a smart play there by Kylan Rue. Oh, hold on.
Play coming in behind the turret. Is going to fall eventually, though. A shutdown going to the pockets of Shotguns. A little bit too aggressive by the jungler. But in the bottom side, Severum trying to heal up Cool right now, but the damage is there. Misfortune collecting the gold on that one. Spiritual tries to teleport in to even it up. SW on the run, trying to use that strut to get away. They're just going to look to dive the tower, though. There comes the CC. And there goes the Misfortune. Spiritual Idealism is unstoppable.
Yeah, probably should have ran the other way back towards the base, but kind of put himself into a corner there, running back towards the outer turret. Not really any great way to get away, but certainly could have maybe increased his odds by walking back towards the base instead there. But a great steal by the Rek'Sai. It was a smart move by Kylan Rue to try and stop putting damage into the dragon, so it would be hard for the Rek'Sai to actually smite it. Because the Rek'Sai is massive damage, especially with the first 3 autos he's got when he procs that Q, he can knock it down pretty quickly and got that smite through. Really well done by Chrono to steal that dragon. And then a couple oversteps here. I wasn't expecting that Jarvan to go over the wall. That's why that's why I kept talking. I was like, there's no way he's diving this, right? All of a sudden he did. A few too many aggressive plays there, but it's still working out because that seems to be the way Hendricken likes to play. Just go in, keep fighting, keep being aggressive. Don't stop. Don't let up on the enemy team. That's what worked for them here. And sure, they've given her a couple takedowns, now 3-14. That lead is still growing despite them giving her a couple shutdowns.
However, one thing we cannot neglect to mention is the shutdown gold coming through, though. Orianna grabbing 600 by taking down the Jarvan. Miss Fortune grabbing 600 by taking down the Aphelios. So when you're looking at those plays as a whole, going to be a positive here for Tiverton. A negative here for Cool right now as he's going to get engaged on teleport coming through, and Hendricken are going to turn it around. 4-man strong down here in the bottom lane.
Those shutdowns are a huge influx of gold, but that is sort of the downside of being a team like Hendricken is. Sure, you give over those shutdowns every once in a while, but the way they play just makes it so hard to come back because the gold's there maybe, but the relentless pressure that's there never allows you to just try and sit down and farm. Tiverton really can't do that here, and sure, they've gotten a few extra item deletions because of these shutdowns, but not enough to come back.
Right now, the Shockwave trying to buy some space. Glacial Fisher should seal the fate. Cool will grab that one from long range. And that's just another takedown into the hands of the AD carry for Hendricken. Now looking to pressure into this mid lane turret, just trying to force Tiverton off of their tier 1 so they can focus on taking it down. Karma running interference right now, and like you said, this aggressive posturing from Hendricken is just incredible.
So the good news, Tiverton, you got Essence Favor and a few other item deletions on the rest of your team, plus Grievous Wounds here. So this timing, if you get a perfect engage, like literal perfect engage, Tiverton can actually win a fight. Is it likely? No. But if they do it perfectly, you can potentially win a fight because they have all the tools right now in terms of item deletions to potentially win. Not going to be easy, but hey, maybe it can happen.
I really do like the pickup of the Executioner's calling there from SW. You are very far behind, and yes, you are delaying your next item from coming through, but you are far enough behind that you already are not going to do a lot of damage in the team fights. You might as well apply some Grievous Wounds and help your team in some area. Miss Fortune has a lot of AoE abilities that make it rain. Right there is very effective for cutting out that healing, so really good pickup by her.
Definitely like the buy. I think waiting till after Essence Favor was a good decision, but now that she's got that first item, certainly a good time to buy because Vladimir and Renekton both do a lot of healing to themselves, and that's really crucial to try and delay that as much as possible by continuously applying that Grievous Wounds and just reducing that healing constantly, because that'll make your life a lot easier. You have to do effectively a lot less damage.
Light Vigil coming in, the Graviton gonna stun up Shoddy Guns. The damage coming through, a good Shockwave is actually gonna trade one back. Aphelios gonna fall. Great bullet time there from SW to buy some space, and they trade one takedown for another and a turret.
Yeah, and that was big by the Braum there because he actually put up the shield just in time so that Ferryman didn't go down. If you don't pick Braum there, if you don't have the shield up, that's another takedown onto the Vladimir.
Right now, it is going to be Tiverton trying to capitalize on the fact that the ADC is still looking at a gray screen and perhaps set up around this dragon. Spiritual, though, waiting in the bush, just trying to catch someone out. And Tiverton knows that they don't have the vision control to actually push forward and will just back off.
Without the Shockwave, I don't think they can win a fight. I think it has to be with the Orianna here unless it's outnumbered. So I think Tiverton not contesting the Dragon would be the best idea unless they can get the Orianna there, which it looks like they will be able to. But this Renekton is so incredibly strong right now that if they are not able to CC him for long enough, if he starts to get into the backline, starts getting that healing off, then you're just not going to be able to do enough damage to him. Yeah, so you got to be very, very careful. Then the Shockwave can shut him down before he can get in there. So crucial to have the Orianna.
Over a full item over the Karma right now, 40 CS up 5-0-2. Has the Ravenous Hydra to really amplify that healing as well as get wave clear. Infernal Dragon, this is going to be the soul. Tiverton don't want to give this one up. They go in, but they're not able to find the steal this time. Civic Wall is just going to try to soak up as much time. Great Shockwave, 3-man, but they're so far behind, it's not going to be enough. Spiritual is dominating. Kylan picks up a takedown as well. 3 members down. A great bullet time from SW is going to catch out Kylan going too far. but that is going to be a 3-for-1, and picking up the Drake is Hendricken.
Well, that was a great engage by the Yornau, or a great response with the Shockwave, rather. But like I said, it has to be perfect. It was amazing, and any time you are even, if you get a Shockwave like that in one fight, 100%. But they're too far behind right now. The engage has to be perfect, otherwise they're going to lose. And that time, it was so close, but not quite there.
That it was. And we are going to see an Infernal Soul this time around. The first of many Infernal Drakes to come did go over Hendricken's way. And when we talked about earlier, we even pointed out that the Infernal, not a great soul to get individually. But when you do have the Infernal Rifts coming on, you have the potential for stacking them. Every Infernal does actually matter, because once you start to get 3 or 4 under your belt, that is where those ridiculous increases in AP and AD come in.
Certainly, that's going to be big here. And Felios going to stack a decent amount of AD here, and Vladimir as well into the late game. He'll probably go for a Magician's Hat to try and get that. So I think that could be really, really big, and give them sort of an extra couple minutes where they are like super, super strong. And right now, Hendricken doesn't really go like lose in scaling. Like, that's not really what they do. So if they can get these extra dragons, they could potentially even short the late game. So if there's a throw at some point, they even have that to fall back on. So this is looking really in Hendricken's favor. I don't know what Tiverton really does here to give themselves a good odds. I think that really all they can do is give themselves the best possible chance of winning by not getting picked off and just looking for the fights as best they can. They can't really give themselves good odds. It's just give yourselves the best ones you can.
12,000 gold down at 20 minutes. You are hoping for a mistake from Hendricken. Perhaps this is one of them, spiritual idealism. He's going to dash and slash away. Teleport coming in. Karma is going to be going down to that bottom lane to try to defend this turret, but I mean, I like what you said. You just try to give yourself the best odds possible. It's going to come down to Hendricken misstepping. If they play a perfect game, they're going to win this. You know, nobody's going to deny that. But Tiverton has to keep their eyes out for those small windows of opportunity where they can come back.
Very, very true. The one thing that sort of gives me hope is that teams, even at the professional level, they make mistakes.
Yeah.
It just happens. They make mistakes. Hendricken have played really well, but they made mistakes. There's 5 of them right there I can see. They've made mistakes, and they will make them again. Tiverton have to be there to capitalize and hope it's enough.
Well, right now, Hendricken are feeling very strong indeed, going for an early Baron. No vision control whatsoever. The jungler back in base. This one going to be uncontested. Should go their way.
Yep, should go their way. I think very, very unlikely.
I think
he's not getting there.
Yeah, it is. I will confidently say that it was physically impossible for Tiverton to steal that one with their current positioning.
Well, I mean, if they sat there and didn't damage the Baron, it's possible they could have gotten there.
You just got to be like that, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I'm just saying. It's not impossible. Would it happen? No. There's an alternate universe out there where it does, though.
Well, unfortunately, Tiverton is living in this universe. They would love to be living in that one, but the Baron going to go over to Hendricken. They're going to have, 3 minutes now where they are very strong on the map. Now, the Baron was slightly nerfed. The duration of it went down by a little bit. So at least Tiverton can find sources in that. But right now, Chrono having to tunnel away from danger. Can't even walk into his own jungle.
That's definitely when you know as a jungler, hey, guys, we're not doing so good. If I can't go farm, then that's a big concern. That Rek'Sai, he's not going to be a threat to the backline. That's one of the big sort of strengths of a Rek'Sai, being able to jump on that backline and pressure them, make the Aphelios kind of sweat before the fight. But he can't really do that anymore. If he jumps on the Aphelios, I'm pretty sure the Aphelios wins now. So if he can't get any more farm, then he's not going to be a threat the rest of the game. That's another detracting factor here for Tiverton. But like I said, the perfect engage here, Shockwave into bullet time could do it. But I think I like what Hendricken are doing. Splitting across the map here, pressuring 3 lanes instead of just 1. And that also means that, hey, if it's not 5 people together, less chance of a big Shockwave.
This is beautiful. Calm, controlled. Hendricken, they have a massive lead, but they are not risking anything. They don't want to give even a 1% chance for Tiverton to find that dream team fight. I also love that Cool went for the IE second. He's so far ahead that he says, like, yeah, Runan's Hurricane synergizes incredibly with the Aphelios, but he just wants that raw damage.
Yeah, the single target damage is huge, and if you can eliminate one of the carries, then it's basically over.
The Renekton not even caring that the Karma is wailing away on him. 1v2. He's going to be in a little bit of trouble now. Pops the ultimate, try to get away, but here comes the backup. Hendricken going to find a nice man knockup, but cool. A great Moonlight Vigil into the back line. Double takedown for him. The Atlas are going to try to displace him for now, but the rest of Tiverton is falling. Their dream team fight is not going to happen. Going golden is going to be Kylan, and he will finally fall. One member traded for 4, and Hendricken looking to close this one out early.
That's a rough way to end it there. They try to make the best play I think they can there. Collapse on the Hendricken. Maybe you can get him, and then the rest team. Oh, well, hold on. Another one's going to come through.
Yeah, they want to try to pick up that last takedown. They get him low. Will they die at the fountain? No, they won't. Just going to use off the rest of those abilities. And Hendricken with a commanding Game 1 lead.
Brilliantly done there by Hendricken. Like I said, a few mistakes made, but the way they played, I don't know if there was a way to even win that game from the state that was in. Because Tiverton, they did a good job, but a few mistakes, and Hendricken just pounced on it. And then all of a sudden, there was no way for them to come back in it. They kept trying to oh, well, we'll try and collapse on the sideline, try and collapse on the rectangle. Gets away one time. That time, the rest of the team comes in, and all of a sudden, game over. So there wasn't really anything to do. And as soon as Tiverton tried to do anything, Hendricken just jumped on him. It was all over.
Well, let's talk about that, because Hendricken got to a point very early on where they were so far ahead that save a massive mistake from them, they were not going to lose this game. Going into Game 2, how does Tiverton prevent them from getting to that point again?
Well, they tried to draft an early game jungler. They went for the Rek'Sai early on. I think that wasn't a bad idea at all. I think that could have been huge for them. Problem was that he went for that topside gank, and once he fell behind, it was kind of over. They drafted a sort of a supportive top laner and then tried to gank that lane. I think that was kind of a weird decision to me. Now, obviously, it makes sense. Oh, start bot side, double leash, so it's a bit better. And so it's the natural kind of course of the jungle take. But ganking a Karma into a Hendricken matchup, it can work, especially if they're not expecting it. But it's kind of the obvious place to be, right? You start bot side. They know that because the bot lane leashed. And then you end up topside. Well, that's obviously where the Jarvan's going to be too. Same path. So I think it was a weird decision to do that. It could have worked out if there wasn't a jungler there, but there was, and they got punished for it. And after that happened, the Hendricken kind of lost all priority he had in the jungle. Couldn't really 1v1 the Jarvan anymore. Didn't really make any ganks happen. In fact, the Vladimir got him alone. After the good play mid lane, that actually worked out. But then all of a sudden, the Vladimir capitalized on a low Rek'Sai who was kind of hanging around too long. And after those couple of mistakes were made, it was just kind of over from there. So it's kind of tough as a jungler. You don't have as much leeway as some of the other lanes where you're just like, oh, call the jungler to help me out. Well, the jungler can't really call anyone else too often because it's just hard to help him out. So I think once that all went wrong, it was just like, well, we can't really do much anymore, and the lanes are losing by themselves, so what would you really do?
We'll see if Tiverton can clean up some of those early mistakes and fight back in this series. They're down 1-0 against Hendricken. We're going to go into a short break as these players get ready for game number 2. Don't go anywhere. This series will return. Scholastic League. We just saw Bishop Hendricken face off against Tiverton. Hendricken taking a very convincing game 1, but we talked a lot about how Tiverton in the early game, if they can shore up some of those mistakes, they had a lot of good moments, and the lead snowballed out of control, yes, but if you can prevent Hendricken from getting that lead in the first place, it could be a completely different story.
Yeah, for sure. They never really got to that point where their composition was like, all right, well, we have a Misfortune, we have an Orianna. All of a sudden, we combine those ultimates, and boom, we have a great team fight. They never really got there. That was the big problem. They never got to the grouping stage where their team was going to be really good. As well as you look at the top lane, snowball a little bit too much early on. That Karma is just kind of designed to just like, all right, we're not going to lose lane. I'm just going to kind of sit here and wait until we group as well. And so when you have all the supports, they're kind of waiting for that point, and you never really get there, or you get there, but you're so far behind at that point where it doesn't really work because you can't win a fight because you're so far behind. It really makes it difficult to really see how that competition could work, but it was just a few mistakes that sort of put them in a position where they couldn't win the fights when they really wanted to. That was sort of what their competition was designed to do, and never really got there.
Yeah, and we talked about the draft a little bit as well. Putting that Karma up into the top side and then investing resources into her, we were a little unsure about. The really star of the composition was going to be the Misfortune, and they decided to really invest into that Karma instead. Didn't work out for them. So perhaps if they want to go to the top side and play that play style, maybe draft something a little bit more aggressive that has a little bit more agency in the lane, or they really want to tunnel in on the AD carry, then you have to path correctly.
For sure. I think that getting a little bit more creative in your initial jungle pathing could be a big way to changed up, sort of come somewhere where they don't expect early on, because the rec side just felt so predictable in what he's going to do. It's like, all right, we'll go start bot side, take the leash, top side. Well, it's like, we don't really want to be there because the karma's there. You want to be somewhere else. Mid lane or bot lane would have been a better place to gank off. In fact, when he did go mid lane, it worked out.
Yeah.
So it would have been better to try and go somewhere else and maybe go a bit more creative with your pathing. I think that would have been a bit better. Maybe just full clear bot side. You're level 3 anyway, because any 3 camps give you level 3 now, including a buff. So I think that would have been a bit better of an idea there. Instead, he tried to go a little bit autopilot in the jungle here, try and play a little bit more passive in the early game in terms of just like, all right, I'm going to do clear so I get enough experience in the double buff and then gank. I think he could be a little more aggressive if he goes for the rec side again. Take 3 camps to go for a gank, bot side or mid, because I think that's kind of where they've wanted been playing around. But instead, he went top. Kind of an interesting decision and didn't work out for him.
Well, if we're looking at Hendricken, we talked about how Tiverton can come back. How can they close out this series? Do they just run it back? If it ain't broke, don't fix it?
Well, for sure, if they give you the same 5 champions, I think that drafting that composition again would work, because all those champions worked before, and there's not really too much you can exploit. Maybe mid lane, the Vladimir early on can struggle, but really for the most part, if it worked and those champions are up again, take it. But I think what you're probably going to see is, to me, most likely a Renekton ban. I think that would be pretty obvious. And then probably the Aphelios of Braum are either stolen or are going to be banned away as well. So I think that those are the 2 lanes I'd look at and say, you're probably going to have to come out with something different. But going aggressive in the top lane again, I think is a good idea, because it works so well in Game 1.
Well, let's see what they decide to do. We have draft phase ready to go, as we're going to be looking to see what Hendricken and Tiverton decide to bring into Game 2. The Renekton pops out as a band that might be joining the squad here, as that one was very strong for Spiritual Idealism. It is important to mention that these teams have swapped sides for Game 2, so we will see Hendricken on the blue side, Tiverton on the red side. First pick going to belong to Hendricken. Rumble and Grog is the first bands to join us.
So makes sense. Rumble was banned, and so was Gragas in the game before here. So no adjustments just yet. I think that those 2 champions clearly are a little bit, shaded more towards specific people here. So I think taking them away, because they are on the fringes of the meta and pretty good, I think that's a good idea. But I think getting Renekton in for Tiverton would be a really good idea here. The Jarvan as well was a bit of a thorn in their side. I didn't think he was the biggest of deals. It was more the combo with Jarvan with someone else that was so powerful. But taking it away, not bad at all either.
Yeah, I actually like the Jarvan ban, because when I looked at Blacktree last game, he was all over the map, nonstop. Even within the first 5 minutes, he ganked top, mid, and bot, and found successful ganks in every single one. He was a huge proponent of why they catapulted to a huge lead. So I think taking away some of the really strong playmakers and maybe forcing him down onto a champion that doesn't have as much agency is very important if Tiverton want to survive past that 5 to 10 minute point. But Misfortune is going to be the first pick up there for Hendricken, as they ban away the Kled and the Morgana.
Thing is, with the jungle pool right now, I think there's so many junglers rather that can have agency in the early game, and sure, taking away the Jarvan takes away one of those, and the Gragas as well, but there's still a couple others where you can pick them, and they're still going to be good in the early game. So that's my concern. But we'll see what they go for here. Tiverton have a slightly different read than I do on what was the problem last game here. Braum's a great ban, but it does open up the Misfortune for Bishop Hendricken. And that was kind of a little bit of an interesting decision to me, because now the Misfortune, which was kind of shut down by the Braum last game, is actually in the hands of the team that won and not going to be shut down by the Braum. That's definitely a concern for me early on.
Tiverton going to fire back with the Tristana and the Zac. Zac definitely going to be a pocket pick there for Chrono. I'm sure he's versed in this champion. Zac, a champion that we actually see have a lot of success beneath the professional level when we're looking at solo queue, can be an absolute terror. The creative gank pathings coming through, it's so hard to ward against this champion. Hendricken responding with that Kayn, similar style, and the Thresh to pair with that Misfortune.
Well, we already see 2 interrupts right now against the Zac. You have Flay, and then if timed correctly, the Kayn can also interrupt the Elastic Slingshot from the Zac. So while the Zac can be very good, and with 280 carries, tons of backline damage, he can be really good. There's a lot of ways to shut him down. If he doesn't get that initial engage, that can be a big concern for me here. So Bishop Hendricken have sort of put together a really nice draft, because they got the Misfortune without the Braum on the enemy side, and now they have 2 champions that can sort of counter the Zac to a degree. Obviously, Tiverton are drafting a lot of scaling here. After losing Game 1 and losing it quickly, that's a concern for me. But it seems like they're just like, if we can survive, we're going to win this game is kind of the mindset here. And the Kayn early on, we saw him get shut down before. Not an aggressive jungler against him here, but he doesn't really have a ton of impact in the early game. His ganks are kind of weak compared to most junglers.
And here is a big change that we wanted to see. The Renekton is now going to be in the hands of Tiverton up there in the top lane for PF Silmul. And this is going to allow him a lot more agency. Yes, he's going against a Jax, but at least it's not going to be a Karma, who really doesn't have any lane dominance. It's just trying to survive. And when I look at the Tiverton roster so far, they have a lot of scaling, but one thing I also see is they have a lot more safety in lane. Both Tristana and the Corki have mobility, can get away from those ganks if they're coming in, so at least they shouldn't fall prey to those early mistakes that they did game 1.
Jax very good into their Hendricken, especially compared to the Karma. So
Yeah.
I think that this should be much better lane and probably a very competitive lane. Top side, we'll see how that goes. But I should be a lot of fighting there. The draft of the Leona for Tiverton makes a lot of sense. Rounds out their composition very well. Although the back line is going to be under a lot of threat. I think that the Zach and Leona are kind of going to be looking to go forward. And sure, they have escapes in their 80 carries, but if their 80 carries aren't actually able to damage the engage that happens, it's not going to be very pretty here. So Tiverton, I think, are going to have a little bit of a tough time with the 3 divers they have and then the 2 backline threats, which I guess are just going to go in as well, and we're going to have a full, full head of steam.
We're just going to see the team swap sides as everybody dives
Maybe.
in.
It's very possible. it's actually very possible here, especially with the Realm Warp. You can even get behind them, so we'll see if they can make that happen with the Rise. I think both sides have put together compositions that can function very well given the ideal circumstances. But if things kind of go wrong, which it did for Tiverton last game, I worry that the same thing might happen.
The big question mark for me is actually going to be on Hendrick's side, because when I look at Tiverton's roster, they have a lot of scaling. Like we've already mentioned, the Corki, the Tristana, the Renekton scales all right. Zach going to be a very beefy front line in the late game. So the natural response would be Hendricken need to get out in the early game because they want to try to get ahead of that clock. They do have some scaling. I mean, Jax and Rise are phenomenally scaling champions, but when I'm looking at the bottom lane specifically, that will get outscaled. And Kane is the biggest question mark for me. We haven't seen a whole lot of Kane. I don't think he's that great in this meta, because if he starts to fall behind early, he becomes essentially a non-factor, and he really doesn't even come online until he has that transformation, maybe like 15 minutes into the game.
The good news is he's up against a Zach, not a Graves this time.
Yeah.
So that's really good because now he has basically no pressure on him in the early game because the Zach doesn't invade. Like, he might gank early on, maybe level 4 with the last slingshot, 2 points in that. But really, the Zach's never going to be invading someone here. And if you look at the lanes, maybe Renekton will come out and do something, but for the most part, there's really no pressure on him. So I think that this is an okay Kane game. Definitely going to have to get that transformation as soon as possible, like any game you have Kane in, but he's under a lot less pressure than we have seen in the past when we have seen Kane played in these tournaments, in these finals. So I think that it's a lot better for the Kane this game, but like you said, a bit of a question mark because it can either get a transformation early and be incredibly powerful, or later, and all of a sudden you're kind of like have half a champion there, which is not good because generally you want 5.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about this bottom lane matchup. Misfortune, very premier ADC in the current meta, but I think that the Tristana and the Leona are actually favored in this matchup. They have a lot of shutdowns to the Misfortune. Leona works very well with Misfortune, works very well against her too. That ultimate can just point and click, stop the Misfortune mid-ult, and then the Tristana being able to jump on top of MF. Yes, she has the strut, but very immobile, and if she is in close quarters, I'd give the edge to Tristana.
I think that Leona is a great last pick here. It filled a lot of the roles Tiverton needed. With a secondary engage because Zach can get shut down and shuts down the Misfortune. Great pick.
All right, well, let's see what these players decide to do. We have the compositions. We'll see the execution. Game 2 between Bishop Hendricken and Tiverton High is underway.
Yeah, and looks like just a 5-point stance here. No crazy invades just yet. Getting a ward down could be really good, especially against the Kane. If Tiverton could do that, then they can track him. And he's not likely to gank, but perhaps they can allow the Zach to gank now that if they know where the Kane is.
To see a little bit of a scuffle here between Spiritual Idealism and Sumal. Just kind of taunting on top of the Jax. Knows he won that one-handedly.
Well, interesting. Usually you don't talk about starting items too much. They're pretty mundane. But we actually have a Corrupting Potion versus a Doran's Blade early on the top side. And normally, Corrupting Potion, very standard on Jax, very good. There's not really any weakness to it. But with an all-in early on, like we might see between the Jax and the Renekton, the extra 80, I believe it's 80 health on Doran's Blade could be massive. Like that could be the difference between winning and losing. So I think the extra power on the all-in could be big. Now, if the lane does go longer, the Corrupting Potion can sometimes get on top because you get that extra mana, that extra health that you otherwise wouldn't have over the course of that lane. But just in a pure all-in early on, that Doran's Blade could be the difference.
I agree. We'll see if Sumal can actually make use of that. Counter-Strike going to come in, looking to just find some early damage onto Sumal. Very typical strategy from Jax. He'll walk up auto attack a champion so he draws the minion aggro, because the dodge does more damage the more auto attacks you've dodged, and that counts minion auto attacks. So he'll draw the aggro of the entire wave, throw out the E, and try to get a big unexpected burst from the E coming in. Didn't work out that time. Sumo very rightly backed off as soon as he saw that counter-strike, didn't let himself get hit by it.
So we talked about the Thresh here could potentially interrupt the Zac. He can also do that with Leona, but they're going aggressive.
Coming in early, they're looking for the hook, gonna find it onto Tristana. Love Tap doing a lot of damage, forced to flash away. Spiffy is going to try to stun down the Leona. Flash forward, the flash to follow, the heal, not enough. First takedown for Cool.
Well, that's an amazing start there in the bottom lane here. We didn't have takedowns early on in the bot lane last time, but now the junglers.
We see a scuffle between Chrono and Kylan, both mid laners racing to meet their junglers. There is going to be the revive
TP's
mechanic for
the
the Zac. TP is available. Sumo will channel that one right now. We'll see if they can protect the Zac as he runs away. No, actually, the Bloblet still died on its way to the revive. And now Spiritual Idealism has joined the fight. 2 quick ones there for Hendricken. And once again, off to a very early lead.
Well, this went from bad to worse now. the lost bot side play, tried to make something happen top side, didn't go well there either. And now Tiverton on the back foot once again. But like we said, incredible scaling on these guys. If they can stabilize from here, they have incredible AD carry duo, and they're mixed damage here, so you can't just stack armor.
And that's the important thing. They need to stabilize from here, because we saw a very eerily similar start for Hendricken in game 1, and they are very good at snowballing their advantage out of control. So if you are Tiverton and you want to take this to a game 3, that has to be the last takedown you give over for a while. They want to make another play. Good jump away from the hook. Now Spiffy is the one looking to get away. Throws down the exhaust onto the Thresh, just trying to keep him away so he can't CC. And Hendricken will back off.
Yeah, getting a little cheeky with the brush there. We also have that alcove, but they decided to just hide in that little middle brush there to try and catch them. And luckily, the Tristana and Leona didn't walk up too far and were able to get away there. And
here comes Chrono. They're going to try to turn this around. No vision so far. No summoner spells, but they may use that just to bait them in. But Sumo has roamed down to the mid lane. They want to try to make a play. Ferryman did not expect this one. Conqueror procced. No CC is going to land, though. And now Kylan wants to try to turn it around. Going to get the W for the slow. Tagged by the spell flux, but the overload's not going to come in. And both laners just going to walk away. Oh, he's going to dash back in, though. He finds the heal. It's going to buy him a couple of extra seconds, but Kylan able to find the takedown. One more auto attack will find the trade, but a 2-for-1 double takedown going to Hendricken.
They were hoping the heal and the Renekton would see them through, but they just go a little bit too far forward there, and sure, they got the one on Rise, but not worth that time.
And we talk about stabilizing the map. Roaming down as a top laner and diving in with 100 AP just doesn't 100 HP doesn't scream stable to me.
Yeah, if he had 100 AP there, I don't know if things would have gone different. But the thing that really stings about that play is sure, you lose the 2 takedowns, the 600 gold or whatever. The big thing is he lost so much time in topside, 36 to 16 in CS. And a plating probably going to fall on the next couple waves too, because he got a lot of damage done on that. So that Jax matchup now super in favor of him. That's what really hurts, compounded on the fact they lost the mid lane play.
While I appreciate the bravado from Tiverton trying to create an advantage for themselves with a scaling composition, I agree with you. I think they just have to try to sit back and wait. You're trying to force too much while you're falling behind, and now once again, a great hook interrupts the jump from Tony, and there is no way for him to survive if SW is going to go down to Cool. 2-0 now on this misfortune.
Certainly is a rough situation. Usually you see the fight interrupting the jump there, but then the death sentence landed, and that just, spelled her doom for sure. The Tristana is unfortunately one of the best champions to escape, but if you don't have that rocket jump and you can't buffer it correctly, there's no way you can get away. That's the only escape she really has, especially before the buster shot is in.
And huge props to Blacktree. That is a very difficult hook to hit, especially on a Tristana jumping away. Now we actually see Spiffy is invading, trying to defend his jungle, as here comes SW, is going to pick up a shutdown for himself. A huge sigh of relief for the AD carry for Tiverton, getting some gold back in his pocket.
Certainly, and now the Kane is actually not in a terrible spot. You see, he's got a CS advantage here. He's already got the Warrior completed, and he's on his way to getting his form. So the big question mark for Hendricken coming into this one, the jungler, and how that would do, not actually in a terrible spot.
Looking to pick up an Ocean Drake is Tiverton. This is going to help him out a lot. Early Ocean Drakes are so important. Getting that extra health regen in lane means if they take a bad trade, they don't have to necessarily get pushed out of lane. They'll have that regen.
It's big also to restore the mana is huge because that means you can stay in lane longer.
Does it still restore mana?
I believe it's still, or no, maybe, excuse me, it doesn't. I meant to say health.
Yeah.
I meant to say health so you can stay in lane longer. Excuse me. I'm so used to the old Ocean Drag, which we had for a long time. Being able to stay in lane longer with health, keep that wave clear up, means that you can hold on to your turrets a bit longer. So that's huge because the longer you have the outer turrets, especially the mid lane outer, means that basically the slower the game is going to go, and the more likely you are to be able to contest an objective in the river. So this Ocean Dragon is going to be really, really helpful for them to be able to stay in lane, just try and slow down the pace of the game as much as possible.
And they're going to need it. I mean, you're looking down the list. Rise in the mid lane has a 20 CS advantage. Ditto for Cool on the Misfortune. Up in the top lane, it's going a lot better for Tiverton. I mean, yes, Rhode is 0-2, but he's keeping up in farm. He's pushing the Jacks in. Kind of the one area where they're not falling too far behind, but you would love to see those carries really keeping the game closer.
Especially considering he left the lane for so long.
Yeah.
Definitely a good sort of like swing back here, but he's still down by a lot. So the Ocean Dragon is huge here. Maybe this gank from the Zac could be huge as well.
Charging up the slingshot, going in. Spiritual does not have the jump available, has to flash away. No minions left for Chrono to pull the Jacks back, and he is going to get out with just the Summoner's
Yeah,
Cap.
very big there weren't minions there. Otherwise, that for sure would have
Here
been a
comes
takedown.
Kylan looking to get aggressive. Bomb on top of him, has the Lantern available. I like this, though. Even though that wasn't a high percentage play, you're getting damage down. You're working towards that transformation. However, showing on the bot side does allow Tiverton to move towards this Rift Herald.
Tiverton are punishing appropriately. Usually when you see a jungler on one side of the map, oh, we moved to the other side of the map. Gank didn't work on the top side, but they get the Rift Herald here. And sure, the Rift Herald could have resulted in a big play for them and get them a lot of gold back. That'd be amazing. But also just denying it is super big because Hendricken now have even less tools to push the game forward.
And look at this. Jack's backing right now. Zac is coming straight up to this top side. They drop this Rift Herald. This could be big. Might be looking at a 1v2 though. Jack's wanting to go in. Gonna be knocked up. Probably gonna be taken down here. No flash available. Jumps away, but a flash followed by Chrono is gonna secure it.
That's a huge play. They get the Rift Herald into another play topside. Tiverton's coming back in this one. I mean, I don't want to call it too early, but they're doing a good job.
Yeah, now Kylan gonna try to defend this. Rift Herald is gonna be summoned. Kylan gonna use the ult, but will most likely go down here. A little bit of a heal. Actually, a lot of healing. He was able to get his Ross form off before that gank. That was huge. Now, teleport coming through. Kylan turning around the 1v2. The Corki has joined. Zac going into the revive state. No teleport available. Sumo is still on a gray screen. And a massive turnaround from Hendricken.
Well, oh, maybe more coming in the Realm Warp. Nope, okay, never mind.
Had the flash available, but thought better of it. And here in the bottom lane, SW getting aggressive on the Misfortune. The ult coming through, forcing the heal, but a great bullet time is going to force him away. The hook is going to lock down the Leona. Spiffy looking for the takedown. Here comes Sumo, trashing in the back line. Black Tree is just incredible here, peeling for Cool left and right. And the hook going to bring Sumo back in, pops the Dominus. And looking to get aggressive. SW doesn't have the jump forward, too low on the health bar right now. Cool out of mana, but has the auto text available to jump forward. Has to flash away. And despite all that Tiverton threw at them, Cool and Blacktree are able to stay alive.
Yeah, that was quite an odyssey. We went all around the lane. Back to the alcove. Now we're over here. TP comes in. They somehow managed to stay alive there, and the Solar Flare was big. That's the big reason Leona's great. Braum great, but so is Leona at shutting down the Misfortune ultimate when she stands in place like that. And if not for Leona, they for sure would have lost both their bot lanes. That was a really kind of very, very close play. And Tiverton fighting back. Sure, they've lost a couple of these plays, but the fact that they're managed to sort of stay in it, and these plays have been pretty close, is such a good sign for them going forward here. And the Rift Herald, again, keeping that away from them. We haven't even gotten first turret yet. Now, sure, a lot of plays have been taking the top side, but at 11 minutes, not bad. Bad news, Ross form has already come in. That's not great. The one question mark we had, right, the jungler, well, he's actually on the form already, so that's not good. But Tiverton, considering the power that Hendricken currently has in the game, are actually doing a really nice job.
Absolutely are. Compared to last game where Hendricken got everything, as Sumo takes a trade up into the top side, this could be dangerous. Falls down to about 200 HP. But last game, everything belonged to Hendricken. The CS leads, the takedowns, the objectives. At least now Tiverton is trading back. Sumo has to be careful, though, if he sticks around. The Jax has his number. And yeah, that's an easy takedown. Right now, the Zach looking to go in for a steal. Oh, no, the Misfortune going to be shut down by SW. Tiverton collapsing beautifully around the Dragon. And you can see Kylan in the pit wanting to look for the steal, but he's so far away. Uses the ultimate to buy himself some time. Can he actually find it? It's a lot of damage coming through from Ross. Ferryman finds a takedown, finds a double, and now the Dragon will actually belong to Hendricken.
Yeah, that was not the fight Tiverton was looking for sure. The good news is they're putting together items. Bad news is that now the pace is starting to pick up for Hendricken. They've just secured their first Dragon, and now the Infernal, I think, is not... The terrain isn't terrible, but Hendricken do like that because they can get in the enemy jungle a little bit here and start to invade even more. So I think that Hendricken now, after Tiverton did a great job stabilizing and actually coming back with some plays of their own, now Hendricken has actually come in and won that fight around Dragon and gotten the Dragon itself.
Keyword aggression onto Ferryman. Here comes the jungler, trying to turn it around. Ferryman, no flash available, has to try to kite this one out. Buy time for his jungler to join. Will be shut down, but here comes the jungle support duo for Hendricken. Blacktree finds his second takedown to the game, and it is going to be a 1-for-1 trade.
Yeah. You gotta give a few to the support, right? You gotta be nice, give a few to the support. He's earned them. He's had a really good game so far. And
support, you mean cool on the Misfortune?
Or I mean Blacktree, yeah. I mean Blacktree because he's actually the support. You're right. He's support.
It's looking like the Misfortune to support this game. Kylan just gonna wall walk away from that one. So is Slippery on the Kane.
Yeah, the Misfortune right now is looking a little bit like a support, but now that she's got the Essence Reaver, she's actually going to start dishing out a ton of damage.
Cool is definitely, you know, the AD carry of this game. He's the one that's going to dish out the damage. But Blacktree has been absolutely phenomenal. His mechanics on the Thresh are next level. I definitely understand now why Tiverton banned it away game one. We were looking at that play bottom lane. I mean, Blacktree just turned around so many fights that Hendricken definitely should have lost.
Tiverton, big completion here on the Infinity Edge for the Tristana. Triforce going to come in soon for the Corki, soonish. Probably another minute or two on that one. But once those two items completed, then they can have a lot of damage coming out of their two AD carries in the mid and bottom lanes here. That's a big, big spike for them and going to be really crucial. And it's going to be, you know, fights are going to be decided whether or not the Jax, the Kane, even the Rise can get into the backline and disrupt the enemy carries, because Tiverton have such powerful carries. If you just leave them untouched, they will eventually just do enough damage. So it's important whether or not they're shut down here. And Thresh, not a big diver. So
here comes Zach, interrupted. There's that play that you talked about. The heal going to come through to try to close the gap, but SW still not able to find a takedown. Here comes Kylan to turn it around. Great bullet time will split the team up. Cool grabs a takedown. Spiffy flashes away. There's the slow to try to find the ultimate. And now Blacktree on a takedown spree in the back line. Tiverton trying to create disruption under the turret. Can they turn this one around? There goes Misfortune. She has fallen. Sumo, though, running for his life as the Jax tries to chase. Zach looking for the slingshot away. The flash forward to chase out of Sumo. Spiritual Idealism is on another spree, as everything is falling apart here for Tiverton. Hendricken is relentless in their pursuit under the Tier 2 tower now.
Well, that's a great example of if the carries are touched, Tiverton fall apart there. That time they used all the things to get in and no way to get out. Tiverton just get punished for their aggressive play. The big counter there by the Kane, and as you said, things fell apart. And now the lead continuing to grow even bigger. Huge, huge lead for Hendricken. Again, Tiverton, so close to getting to the items they need, though. Already Infinius comes in, Triforce soon for the Corki. They didn't have them. They had Infinius that fight, but no Triforce for the Corki, so he didn't really do much. And getting those first and second items are going to be huge. So as long as we don't continue to see the map deteriorate, as long as Hendricken aren't able to push down and take out the inners and the inhibitor turrets too quickly, then we'll be fine, you know? Because really, if we can hold on to the base until 30 minutes, then Tiverton will have all the items by then and potentially could win a straight 5v5. And if you can win 5v5s in 30 minutes, even if their base is broken sometimes, you can still come back in that game.
No, Sumol doesn't have access to the ultimate or the flash. This one looking dangerous for him, but the Jack's going to run away. Zach taking a lot of damage as well. No passive available. Slinks away with the smallest sliver of health.
That was so close. I think the potion might have saved him. That's how close that was.
I think it did. I know it saved him. That extra tick of health was keeping him alive. We're talking about holding on to the base until 30 minutes. That's a very tall order here for Tiverton because once again, Hendricken off to an early lead have snowballed it so effectively. If you give this team an advantage, they will take absolutely everything away from you. And with the scaling on their side as well, I mean, they have a Jax, they have a Rise, and it's going to be an Infernal map. So even when we are giving the slight scaling advantage over to Tiverton, 1 or 2 Infernal Drakes will change that.
But we have the Triforce completed for the Corki here. The Infinity Edge was already in for the
Sold everything
Tristana.
for it.
Well, he sold everything for it, but he's got it. That's the important thing here.
He's got the important
This is an
item.
aggressive Dragon start, though. This might be the fall for Tiverton.
Infernal Dragons are going to be so strong in this game, deciding the late game scaling teleport going to come in from Sumol. Here comes the fight. Tiverton starting off with a health disadvantage, but a great wombo combo into the back line. It's so great that I'm choking on it. I'm surprised Tiverton just demolished that fight. And it was that Triforce that you talked about, coupled with the amazing engage from the Leona, from the Jax.
Here's the hop from the
They're
Tristana.
jumping on, they want more, but are they
no.
jumping to their own demise? Here comes the Realm Warp. Shoddy Guns is going to fall as well. And what started off so beautiful for them, they just pushed too far. And it is once again going to be Bishop Hendricken coming out on top.
And that was like so good. And then they just threw it all away. It was so amazing by Tiverton. And then Hendricken was like, hey, we're still around here. Tiverton was like, okay, we'll keep fighting. And things just went south from there.
Absolutely. And now Hendricken on a rampage, shoving into the base. Pre-20 minutes, this inhibitor is going to go down as Shelly gets off her second charge. Might even get out. No, won't get off the third. I mean, that would be a little bit ridiculous.
Hold on. Shelly's tired. She needs to take a rest.
Okay. Small caveat, though. Tiverton, at least they got the dragon.
That's huge because, as you talked about, well, scaling advantage doesn't matter as much if you are able to pick up those Infernal Dragons. All of a sudden, you got way more AD AP. But now, hey, they just got the Infernal. That's at least one more off the board and can even up one.
However, the one Infernal Drake is not going to turn this game around. Now, when we're looking at stacking them up, those become important over time. We are still in a world, though, where Hendricken, looking to extend their gold lead, they're already 12,000 gold up. Not even 20 minutes in. Is this realistically a lead that Tiverton could come back from?
Well, I mean, they just did it. The problem was they won a fight, and then they threw it all away. They need to understand that and never do it again, because if they do it again, the game's over. That's just how it is. So if they can continue to win the fights like they did the last time with the crazy combos and come in with a great engage, they can do it, but they need to not overstep. They need to be very, very careful from here on out, because 1 or 2 more mistakes and the game's over.
Has to be a perfect game from this point on for Tiverton if they want to extend this to a Game 3. Truly backs against the walls in the state championship. Is now looking in the mid lane. Inhibitor is down. With Baron spawning, that can be so difficult for them to actually deal with because those super minions are going to draw a lot of pressure. And Hendricken can really use that pressure to try to force that Baron. And here you can see them forcing a fight. A great hook onto Leona. Bullet time, tearing through the team, was interrupted. Kylan actually ended up going down. This is a good start here for Tiverton. But another amazing hook. Black Tree, can you miss that at all? Here comes Sumo. 3 members on top of him. He is going to be demolished. Double takedown there for the Misfortune. Almost makes it a triple. His Ferryman took down Sumo as well. And Hendricken, they may just be looking for the end here. Only 2 members left. A 2v3. Tiverton,
2v4
you have
now.
to make the defense of your life.
Well,
SW, the man is not going to do it. It is going to be Hendricken once again. An even more dominant victory as they will eventually, as they've had their stats with CS and maybe another takedown, become your 2019 League of Legends Fall Champions, winning back-to-back Rocket League and League of Legends. Hendricken is making a name for themselves in esports.
Somehow they have gotten all the best players. I don't know how they're doing it, but Hendrick can have all the best teams. Like, what the heck happened?
What is their budget?
Yeah, they must.
It is buying the top players.
They must have some great coaching staffs over there. Because
I agree.
To put together not one but two teams that come out on top, just getting the finals alone is impressive.
Yeah.
But two teams that win and do it in a dominating fashion in League of Legends is incredible. They have played so well in this series, and a couple team fight wins there by Tiverton, but then they overstep, and Hendricken were just so much more disciplined the entire game here. Tiverton had the energy, they had the skill to win, but a couple times they just kind of overstepped their bounds, and all of a sudden Hendricken jumped on it, capitalized on the mistakes, and when you do that, that's a very good formula for success.
There is no doubt that Hendricken today was the best just esports organization, out of the Rhode Island Interscholastic League, winning back-to-back Rocket League and League of Legends. Insanely impressive. You can see their run here through the bracket all the way to the end. They will be your champions for the 2019 fall season. And that was just a truly great series of League of Legends that I am glad that I had the chance to witness. Tiverton, though, we don't want to take too much away from them. They made it to the finals. This is a great team, and we saw small pockets of greatness from them. Unfortunately, Hendricken was the better team today, but like you said, even 10,000+ goal behind, they won a team fight at Dragon. Unfortunately, they pushed too far and they threw it back away, but there were still times when they really shone.
Yeah, one of the things about League of Legends that can be a bit deceiving is about those gold leads and how it's easier to fight when you're ahead. And the style that they played today was very much like, all right, we're going to be team fighting in a couple minutes. Like, we're not going to be fighting a lot in the early game. We're going to sort of team fight later on, or at least we'll skirmish, but we're going to fight later on. That was kind of their goal to get to. They drafted 2 compositions like that, and when they fell behind early, everything kind of fell apart for them. And that's kind of one of those things where it's like only 1 or 2 things went wrong in the early game, but it's continued to snowball and become so important later on that they really couldn't get to the game that they wanted to play. And so that's kind of the thing about like having styles can really be more deceiving. Whereas in like basketball, you lose by a couple of points. Football, you lose by a couple of points or whatever. It's clear that the game was pretty close. This game was a bit closer than it really seemed because the mistakes that happened were really small, but it made the game look so lopsided because of the way League of Legends and MOBAs work in general.
Well, congratulations once again to Hendricken for winning both League of Legends and Rocket League. I have been Audio today, joined by Kiosk, casting League of Legends. Thank you so much to all of our viewers who stuck around throughout the broadcast. We are going to have some more games for you coming tomorrow. We'll have some League of Legends to watch as we move on to our next championship. If you're interested in playing in the high school PlayVS League, Spring 2020 registration is open right now. Head over to playversus.com. That's playvs.com, and you can sign up your team for your high school to have a chance at playing on the big stage as well. We're going to be signing off for tonight, though. Thank you so much to everybody that watched. Thank you to PlayVS for putting this all together, and we will see you tomorrow.
I think a lot of students have just gotten another sense of how to belong and how to create relationships outside of what were the traditional avenues.
And a lot of my students talk about how they feel safe in the esports program, and that's their family, that's their community. And I think that esports gives kids a future that they might otherwise not have.
Man, I wish that had been available when I was in high school.